On average, any recent graduate in Tanzania doesn't even possess 20% of the skills. Ideation, problem solving, communication, teamwork, creativity, critical thinking, design skills, prototyping, product development, customer acquisition strategy, business modeling, pitching, financial skills, fundraising, go-to-market strategy, finding PMF, growth hacking, technical skills. And I say that because I'm serving in 4 advisory boards of 4 universities, and I'm a board member of Tanzania Institute of Education, and we played a very critical role to develop the new competence-based curriculum. So if we are talking about building the startup economy in Tanzania, the first critical thing we need to address is the issue of skills gap. And we have to invest on what we call the 4 C's. We have to invest in critical thinking, we have to invest in creativity, we have to invest in effective communication, but also we have to invest on how we help our young people to learn how to collaborate, how to find a co-founder, and how to build something with others, how to see others as partners and not your competitors, and how to be okay to receive feedback and not to confuse between feedback, criticism, and insult. To some extent, a lot of young people today have very good GPA because they get a chance to go to university, but what they lack is soft skills. Those soft skills are critical for them to be able to build these businesses. So the critical aspect and critical question that comes is, where do they acquire or attain these skills? When you look at this pathway, the first phase is ideation and conceptualization stage. That is where most of these guys are. They are still at the idea level. And it is normal to have a large group of them located there, but the critical issue is the path toward building a business, because they cannot stick at the idea level. And for them to move from the idea level to build a product, they need to develop technical skills. So when we tell university you need to have co-working space, innovation hub, and innovation labs, it's because the mainstream academic system doesn't instill those skills to students. If you want to build a business, you need to have sales skills, marketing skills, critical thinking, good communication skills, collaboration and coordination skills. Sasa ulishindwa kusimama kwenye interview, hizo skills utazitoa wapi? Kwa ile question haifanyi kazi. Most of these incubators and accelerators are facing massive challenge to incubate and to accelerate. If Innovate Ventures here or Smart Lab, they can agree with me, because they lack these critical foundation skills. What happened, instead of accelerating and growing their business with them, you ended up teaching them these skills. How to pitch, how to present your product, how to speak with confidence, how to dress well. You're getting me? But that is not a responsibility of an accelerator. We can't achieve that if universities still think and behave traditionally. The university we have right now, they're called second generation universities, where education and research is the primary focus, and the center of knowledge is a person called lecturer. But the good news is we are living in an era where no one is smarter than Professor ChatGPT. Everyone has knowledge, everyone has information. The key issue is, how do you use the knowledge and information you attain? Which means the role of university has moved from just being education and research to incorporate aspect of innovation, technology, and entrepreneurship. Otherwise, we will always be celebrating and showcasing innovation that are emerging from the university, but eventually they'll die because the cycle is not full. So if we are serious about creating a generation of people who are going to come with entities, with startups and everything, then we completely have to change our mindset. Not just on the mainstream education, we need to completely relook and rethink our culture and value system. Starting from home, you have to create a society where people are okay to have discussions, to have conversations, to collide these ideas. We need to see universities doing ideathons and hackathons, helping students to come up with new ideas. We need to see technical boot camps happening at the university, where a certain language or certain framework is being tested and students compete to do it so that they can actually develop hands-on skills. We need to see on-campus startup launchpad program We need to hear University of Dar es Salaam, they're running their own startup launchpad program. University of Dodoma, they're running their own launchpad program, the same with DIT, so that we can be able to see actual startups emerging from universities. Go to Coursera, go to Udemy, go to Udacity, go to Khan Academy, go and learn these skills, because your university, unfortunately, will not be able to catch up with these changes in time, and possibly by 2030 you'll already be irrelevant. Tayakumbuka haya maneno. So that being said, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and have a good day.
Great. So we have about 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes of quick round of conversation. Can you just tell us about yourself and your experiences in this space of startup ecosystem? Welcome.
Oh, okay, thank you so much. I'm Dr. Tirongan Magadza, Director for the Center for Artificial Intelligence at Rare Institute of Technology in Zimbabwe. The mandate of the university is to design, incubate, transfer, and commercialize technology. So since its inception, it's already embedded the concept of commercializing ideas within it. So basically, that's what we are pushing. So our main focus is not necessarily to produce graduates, but to produce graduates who can create jobs. Basically, that's what we are here for.
Harare Institute of Technology is widely recognized for its strong applied learning model and its ability to produce industry-ready graduates, as you just told us. From your experience, what institutional reforms and design principles that have been most critical that transformed Harare Institute of Technology into an innovation-oriented university?
So since inception, the vision for HIT wasn't about having a large number of students. So currently our enrollment is our total student on campus around 2,000.
2,000, okay.
So we are not a numbers institute. Most of our programs, they are hands-on. That's why we offer, we moved away from Bachelor of Science. Ours is Bachelor of Technology. The idea is we are more hands-on as possible. We have got mandatory courses that we call technopreneurship. It's just entrepreneurship courses, but we are now training technologists to be business-minded.
So what I'm hearing you say is, one, making sure the student-instructor ratio is embedded into the university institution design, having a reasonable number of students to instructor level so that they have much more engaging instruction level, right?
Yes.
And then another one is embedding entrepreneurship in all the courses across the institution. Techno, you've used the word technopreneurship.
Yes.
And I think that's quite a useful thing to have. And then having an institution really that is linking the industry in terms of commercialization, being intentional in that. And I think those are really quite interesting. For our context, in a lot of institutions, especially in Tanzania, we can borrow in terms of how much student instructor level are really available in our institutions, and probably have other speakers here to discuss that. The technology ecosystem, how does it look like in Harare, your institution with the entire ecosystem in technology? How are you engaging with them?
Recently, our government, through the Ministry of Higher and Tertiary Education, they introduced Education 5.0.
Education 5.0.
Yes,
okay.
so it's now mandatory across all of our universities. We know universities, they operate in three mandates: teaching, research, and community service. But with the Education 5.0, it brings about innovation and industrialization. So the idea is we really want to produce graduates that are able to produce products and services that address our own context. And in order to support that, the also government started to introduce innovation hubs across all of our university.
Let's talk about curriculum. If you have any insights you could share with us, especially in Tanzanian institutions, curriculum changes and how the institution culture has been really informed from your institution to change how learning happens.
Teaching and learning, that's not our core business. So, of course, it's a tool for us to be able to come up with innovative solutions. You need to make sure that you have people who know something and people who can do something. So we want to cultivate that. And with the advent of the generative AI, we now know that knowledge is now easily accessible, which also requires us to re-engineer the way we assess our students. So basically, at HIT, all of our students, it's mandatory for them to take AI and data science courses. So which means we are now embracing, the artificial intelligence amongst our graduates. So which means every student who passes through HIT has got a course in artificial intelligence, and we are embracing the use of it. So what we are now cultivating is how can we create these skills that will survive a longer period, because some of these rote memorization, you can get that information from ChatGPT, but there are skills that are even difficult for artificial intelligence to replicate, like creativity, like problem solving. So our more focus is to encourage students to come up with solutions.
And I think one of the fears that has been existing, especially in the world of academia, is similar to when the calculator was created, and students were now told, you can't have a calculator in your exams. Now everybody here has a calculator on their phone. So this becomes a tool, essentially. I'm curious about how you would prepare your teachers, your academicians, your lecturers, your professors to use this tool. So I don't know if you've explored that and you've worked around it, especially in the context of creating market-ready graduates and knowing the market is changing.
I think graduates, they are much more advanced in terms of making use of this kind of technology, because there's a lot of pressure. So our abbreviation is HIT, but most of people call it HIT. It means the amount of pressure that you are getting in. There's so many assignments, so much things to do. So the majority of our students, they are now tapping into these, generative AI, so that they are able to, do their assignments much faster. But we've also identified that our lecturers, they are kind of lagging behind, and some of them, they are kind of resistant to change. So we have introduced an AI-powered leadership program. So with that program, we started with the academic leaders, the deans, the deputy vice chancellors. So we are subscribing them to these AI tools. We also identified top researchers within our faculties, our schools. We are also subscribing them to these tools. And so every month we have workshop in kind of teaching them how to make use of them. Because once they realize how useful these tools are, it's now easy for them to kind of change the way they assess the student, because themselves, they now know and understand how powerful these tools are. So I believe, I think that will go a long way in terms of helping our educators, transition from the old way of, going through books, so that they cultivate these tools that are difficult to replace even with AI.
When you talk about talent pipeline, which is the theme of our conversation right now, universities have a certain role to play. And then as a pipeline, they've been picked up by somebody else later on. And if the institutions like universities don't have direct linkages, or the pipes are not in alignment, there's a lot of leakages that happens in the talent pool and things like that. give us an example of how HIT is demonstrating linkages with market industry in that pipeline that we could borrow from. And that would be my last question for you.
Okay, thank you so much. I think we have kind of find it a little bit difficult because the integration between the university and the industry is kind of not quite integrated. Why do I say that? With all of our graduates have to go for internship, but you realize that it's kind of difficult for students to find placement. And these integrations, they are quite important so that when students they go for internship, we get the feedback from companies so that we kind of change our curriculum. But what we have been doing is through our innovation hub and through our startups. These startups, they are now kind of taking some of our graduates as their employees. So it also kind of help in terms of integrating what we are learning and what the business world needs. But in terms of the general industry, that linkage has been a challenge, but I believe what will help is if government put in a policy whereby if an industry take a certain quota of students for internship, it kind of introduce some tax incentive. Somehow it also motivate companies to start to take graduates so that the talent pipeline is not have some leakages.
Thank you.